Last Thursday, the ever-popular frontrunner for the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders, spoke to an auditorium full of supporters at Georgetown University. And in that speech, he proudly proclaimed that as a democratic socialist, it meant specifically that he was not a radical, but actually a Democrat, and that this is a tradition that the Democrat Party has always had, and that previous people in the Democratic Party who have done things like him have also been accused of socialist. Here's exactly what he said. FDR redefined the relationship of the federal government to the people of our country. He combated cynicism, fear, and despair. He reinvigorated democracy. He transformed the country, and that is what we have to do today. And by the way, almost everything he proposed was called socialist. The next time you hear me attacked as a socialist, remember this: I don't believe government should own the grocery store down the street or control the means of production. But I do believe that the middle class and the working families who produce the wealth of America deserve a fair deal. Now there's him saying it directly right there. He is not a radical. He is not in favor of taking over the means of production. He is not a socialist in any way, shape, or form. He is explicitly saying this here, but using the moniker of democratic socialist. So those Americans who've been running around calling him a socialist, particularly those on the questionable left who've been saying that he's a socialist, are outright wrong. And here he is actually saying it. But what is he really saying? What he's really saying is that he wants to offer nice things to first world people so that they won't get angry. Here, America, I'm going to give you a bunch of concessions so you calm down and let the system continue to work and not rise up against it. Now, what is he really saying when he says he wants to give regular middle and working class people more stuff? Already, the U.S. consumes so much that it would take 4 planet Earths to sustain it. So think about that when he says America needs more. Now, another really interesting thing he said was that he wanted to build another NATO, like another organization like NATO, to help combat the growing influence of radical Islam, and more importantly, to combat the underlying ideology behind the radical Islamist movement. A new and strong coalition of Western powers, Muslim nations, and countries like Russia must come together in a strongly coordinated way to combat ISIS, to seal the borders that fighters are currently flowing across, to share counter-terrorism intelligence, to turn off the spigot of terrorist financing, and to end support for exporting radical ideologies. And it's of course from this that we get the idea that perhaps Bernie Sanders has absolutely no idea how foreign policy actually works in the United States. In actuality, aside from the photo ops with John McCain, ISIS is actually getting its funding from the United States via the FSA. And in fact, there's a very long history showing that the United States is actually responsible for the creation of ISIS. Now, one of the things ISIS does do is carry out the interests of the United States. They attack the governments that they don't like and try to destabilize them in order to get some kind of group in to forward their interests. That's the thing about ISIS. It's doing U.S. interests. So what is Bernie Sanders talking about the U.S. putting on an effort to combat that? It's theirs. They control it. They fund it. That's part of the problem here. See, Russia is in Syria fighting ISIS because ISIS is carrying out U.S. efforts. How would it be possible for Russia and the United States to collaborate against this radical Islamist movement when they're both very specifically on opposite sides of the contradiction here? Again, even this statement alone says very much about how Bernie Sanders has absolutely no idea how the system is actually running. ISIS is a manifestation of U.S. imperialism. U.S. imperialism is a result of U.S. capitalism. He's talking about going in and undercutting or eliminating the radical ideology of Islam that causes this whole situation, when that's not the cause. Global inequality is a cause of anger. It is the United States funding, training, and manipulation that turns that contradiction between the first and the third world into a force that they can use. They are manipulating the very people it is they are brutalizing and exploiting as a result of capitalism. Bernie Sanders absolutely doesn't see that here. He doesn't see that first world people are getting off on third world people, and that's maybe where this hostility is coming from, and that hostility is what's being utilized by the United States via radical Islam. And that's why Bernie Sanders is not a socialist. It also explains how he's entirely first worldist. He does not understand global contradictions. In fact, I really wonder if he understands anything at all other than, I will give you free things if you vote for me. But frankly, Bernie Sanders is the epitome of first worldism. He's offering people everything, but not doing anything to stop the problem. He's got a bunch of nice reforms, but nothing that fundamentally rejects capitalism. He just said right there, he has nothing to do with taking over the means of production, which means capitalism essentially remains the same. So people who support Bernie Sanders and call themselves socialists really need to sit down and think about this. Is this guy really a socialist? No, he's not. And those people who support him are not socialists for supporting him. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of them, then head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you can go to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media.